Hey YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? Thankfully, I'm getting a little bit more time soon to do things that I usually enjoy doing. I've had a pretty rough last few weeks. Um, just tried to survive and doing good, doing pretty good. So, a few thoughts for you guys, and I might go actually on a walk tonight and make another video as I walk. We'll see. Um, yeah. So a lot of what I'm about to say here, I'm sure you guys can relate to what I'm going to be talking about here, and maybe in my next video as well. But I am in a mood to make some videos, for sure. And I have some things in my mind. I'm not always sure how I'm going to say some of these things. But again, until I, in my back of my computer, kind of a face on the computer, kind of set up, until that happens again, I'm kind of doing a lot of these more impromptu videos, which I'm able to kind of speak more from the heart, which I think you guys might like more anyway. But the other type of video that is more of my earlier videos, it's certainly more organized at times, certainly more organized, but I don't know, they both have their pros and cons, I suppose. Okay, so let's jump into this stuff here. That's on my mind. I'm sure a lot of you guys, um, well, I know at least the vast majority of my YouTube viewers. I don't know if we've met in real life, of course. Maybe a few. There's probably some that are subscribed to me that I do know in real life. I'm sure. But I've known in my life. I've known many, many, many different kinds of people. I've known enough people, a wide enough variety of personalities, to die tomorrow, tonight, and still have had a pretty fulfilled life in that regard. I really have known quite a wide variety of people. I've known people, I've known people that are extremely wealthy and all the way to dirt poor. I've known people that have a million pet peeves. They're all you're always kind of walking in eggshells around them. I've known people that are crude and disgusting, vulgar and vile. I've known people that are conceited, arrogant, um, we'll just say very sexually deviant, uh, and promiscuous. I've known people that are extremely beautiful, extremely handsome by many people's standards. I've known jocks. I've known nerds, plenty of nerds. I've known people that are very popular and sociable, and people that are not so popular or sociable. I've known strong conservative Christians and Mormons, and I've known Jehovah's Witnesses, and I've known liberals and hippies and people that smoke marijuana and vegans and vegetarians and carnivores, and I've known people from practically every race and ethnicity in the world. And there's hundreds of other religions I can't even think of off the top of my head. I've known goody two shoes folks, people that want to smack because of you just want to smack them across the face because of how much they try to look like they're righteous. I've known people that are really laid back and easygoing and friendly, from the country folks like that to the urban folks like that. I've known really busy people that never had enough time to talk to me. Be that as it may, um, no matter how much I liked that person or didn't like that person, but was curious about them at some point. I've known very shy people, I've known very social people, I've known people that are very deep people like myself, very thoughtful, and people that are very not deep and not thoughtful. I've known people that have a deep, very very deep interest in Scandinavians and very tall blonde Scandinavians at that. And I've known people that have very deep interests and we'll just say romantic interests in other types of people, whether they're African, Asian, Hispanic, what have you. I've known lots of Jewish folks. I've known some Arabs. I've known some Persians. Plenty of folks from India. A lot of folks from China, Korea, Japan, Russia, Sweden, Denmark, Americans with that ancestry, and Europeans with that ancestry, Ethiopians, Nigerians, and folks from Kenya, and Egyptians, and Italians, and Mexicans, Brazilians. I've known people that love baseball and water skiing. I could keep going. I think where I'm going with all of this is I've known a lot of people again in life. And even within the last 10 years or so, since I've been teaching private lessons, even before then, I knew bullies. I knew people that stick up for other people. I knew what real courage was. I knew imaginative people. I knew people that didn't have very much imagination, but they were very hardworking or were very lazy. And, I've known very practical people. I've known very mechanical people, scientific people. And I've known people that have a hard time with believing anything based on faith to base their lives on. Again, where I'm going with this is it helps to be older and to have known more people, or it helps to have more life experiences in general. And when you've been a little bit outside of your former social loops and surroundings socially, and even in the future when I'm in some other place doing other people, no matter, you do learn over time how to talk to different kinds of people. It's always hard, for instance, talking to people that are bullies. It's always hard talking to people that are not either not what's the word I'm looking for? Just talk about nasty stuff. It's always hard talking to them because on the one hand, there's an emotional component of, well, the older you get, the less you're truly afraid of someone, unless they're, anyway, unless you're an old man and you're about to get punched by a big 7 foot tall guy. But even then, I mean, I don't know. Age kind of tempers a lot of things. But I've known bullies. I've known plenty of people that talk about gross stuff. And, in the second case, when people just talk about really gross stuff, it just depends. There's different kinds of bullies. There's different kinds of people that just talk about things that they shouldn't. And, but yeah, I mean, it's always hard to talk to those kinds of folks. It's always hard to talk to folks, not only those two camps, but other folks that you've had a romantic interest in, but they have not reciprocated that interest. That's also very hard. It can be very hard. It's also very hard to talk to people that you just haven't talked to for a long time and you feel bad that you haven't talked to them. It's hard to talk to people that you just don't feel like you have a lot in common with, and you're not really sure what to talk about with that person. And it's hard to break the ice, still for me a lot of times. And it's hard to, um, man, there's so many things that are still hard for me. But you gain insights about people over time, I suppose. Sometimes it takes a while, in some cases, and I just feel like I don't know. There's 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 less. There's not as much that escapes me. But I would like to meet more people. It's hard. I'm a very busy person. Um, some part of me does relate to actually the kind of person that is really uh, gets things done really fast in life, and it's very knows what they want to do and they go for it and all that stuff. Some part of me does relate to that kind of person, but the majority of me doesn't. The majority of me relates better to the people that have a tougher time figuring out their lot in life, because of the way I am, because of the way that these people are. Um, it's hard for me to make life decisions. I know that about myself. It's hard for me to make big life decisions. It always has been. It probably always will be. I don't relate well to people that know exactly what they want. I mean, in a way, in a way, I relate well to people that know what they want, but it's not always something that exists or that they're aware of in the present in their lives. It's one thing to say, I'm gonna earn lots of money so I can buy this car. I want this car. That's a very specific kind of thing. It's quite another thing to say, well, I want to kind of live life like a fantasy adventure where I just go where I want to go and minimal expenses and don't want a job, but I do want to make money somehow. So, figure some way of doing that. But that's not very specific, right? That's a much vaguer kind of thing. That's the kind of person I relate to better. Definitely that second kind of person. Even though the first type of person is, you know, well, um, both my parents are more practical people than me. They both think more practically than I do. I've always known that. But I don't. That's not me. But there is a part of me that relates to that kind of way of being. I certainly know I know more of what it will take to do certain things in life. A lot of times it's about money. A lot of times it's not, or less so. But it's interesting when you meet somebody or you talk to somebody again that you haven't talked to for a while, and you get the feeling that they're not aware of how much you've grown during the time that, or you've changed in some respects. Not changed like very much. I mean, you haven't changed your personality that much, but you've become more intelligent, more mature, more aware of so many things. It's interesting when you meet someone like that you've known in the past, and they are a little slower than you might expect to kind of catch up with where you're at. And my usual response to that is, it's cool, it's okay, I'm totally fine with, I used to be this kind of person and you're still kind of thinking about me in this way, and now I'm this way and you're not always aware of what it is that I've experienced, and that's okay. I think it's good to be patient with people. It's just very, very hard to be that way. It's very hard to be patient with certain kinds of people. It's true. In some respects, I still am tougher on women than men. But in other respects, I'm easier on women than men. Let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. So, if it's just somebody that I don't know, I'm just meeting somebody for the very first time, I'm going to talk to your average woman in a probably a much more polite, softer, kinder, more considerate, nicer tone. Unless I quickly get the idea that this lady doesn't really value or want that way of being talked to. I'll get that impression very quickly. And so in that case, I'll kind of go more with a neutral, run of the middle road, kind of thing with that kind of woman. But most women like it when you are more, yeah, nicer, more considerate of their feelings, more, yeah. I think most women like that. Regardless, we're not talking about the age or attractiveness or whatever. No. I'm just talking about women in general. They do like it and appreciate it when you talk to them like they are a lady, right? That is my opinion. I know that there are women that don't like it when you talk to them like they're more fragile and whatever, and that's okay too. I quickly get that impression once, it comes very quickly, and I can be rebuked, and that's okay from that kind of woman. Say, I apologize. Sorry about that. And I'll talk to him more like I'm talking to a guy a little bit, within reason. And I do talk to guys a little bit more, yeah, it's more direct. It's not really all that much different. It's just, the nature of what I'll talk about with guys still is a little different than with women. Yeah, yes and no, yes. And that's just the way things are. And it's going to be different if I'm talking to somebody I knew when I was younger, of course, compared to somebody that I just met, as an adult. That all being said, so, so it might sound like I'm taking it easy on ladies, women. On the other hand, I have certain expectations for women that I don't really have for guys as much. Those expectations for women often involve, um, well, um, I think this has something to do with, this one's harder to try to explain, I think. But if I talk to guys in a more direct, not quite aggressive, but it's more of a direct kind of, or it's just less sensitive, maybe a little bit. Then with guys, I also tend to have less expectations regarding what I expect from that person. So with guys, it doesn't matter if it's, I mean, maybe, one, my dad would be, so certain, I guess you'd say church leaders might be a little bit different type of gentleman, an older man. But if we're talking about most guys, I honestly don't expect even my friends or my whatever guys I talk to, whether they be they dads or just single guys or whatever, whoever. I don't expect guys to men to always be, I would say, as well mannered as I would expect women to be, and I'll explain why. Regardless of how much interest I have in a woman romantically, it has something to do with the ideas of being ladylike that you're taught by your parents, and then you expect some level of this in your everyday life. I expect men to be men and women to be women, but with guys, my experience has often been that some are mature, just like some are mature women, but that guys tend to speak their minds more and are more direct and on average, and that's just my experience. And when you talk to a guy who's more emotionally reciprocal, I'll put it that way. It's nice. It's great. I just don't expect that to be the rule. So I try to let other men and other guys have their space and their whatever, and I just don't. I've learned not to expect very much from guys in some respects. In some respects, I mean, I don't. Even when it comes to things like profanity, and that just comes from working in a blue collar job. But obviously, there are plenty of guys that never swear, that never. So for women, I do expect women to carry themselves well, and if they don't, and they're offended that I expect better of them, that's understandable. They can be offended. That's okay. That's okay. But this is something. Look, this is a value I got from my parents. I learned from a young age that guys tend to be stronger, tend to be able to just deal with certain things more. I suppose on an emotional level. I don't know. We're just kind of beasts of burden. It's There's more to it than that, but that's kind of more the lot of men in the world. We're kind of like beasts of burden, working away, toiling away. We're always problem solving and whatever. And it's hard sometimes to talk about feelings. It's not like it's something that we tend to excel at, but and all these things, you can say there are stereotypes of men and women, but no, there's always, like I mentioned, about culture. It's the same thing, certainly about gender. There's definitely a lot of truth to this. It's not like it's completely false, right? For women, if they just don't act like I think women should act, I don't want very much to do with them. I don't. And I don't know why they think it's okay. Why would you say, well, hey, why would I have a double standard for genders? And I don't. I just learned to expect this. And the more that I meet women that don't act ladylike, which just basically means that what it means. The ladylike ideas, maybe they come from Victorian England or something. But that is the culture that I, on some level, grew up with. I'm not from Victorian England, but my parents valued similar kinds of values that those kind of folks valued. And so that's, again, the culture I was brought up in. Now, I have my own ideas, but they certainly don't espouse many liberal ideas about women. Maybe some, of course. Sure, I'm a Washingtonian, of course. But yeah, if I meet a woman that is vulgar and disgusting, and I usually think of guys that act this way anyway. I already expect not very much from them, so I kind of expect if a guy's got tattoos all over himself and he's drunk and stuff, well, I don't expect very much from that person. If I see a woman like that, I'm probably not going to expect very much from her either. But I prefer in my mind to think of women a few notches higher than that. I've heard it said that, women are more righteous than men, or that there's going to be more women in heaven than men. I've heard that said by people of my faith. I don't know how true that is. I just know where that's coming from. And that kind of way of thinking comes from a very conservative culture, not just British and Victorian England, but it comes from a place where people view women as being gentler and more motherly and more nurturing, kinder, more sensitive, and more womanly. that's the kind of culture that's coming from, and that's the kind of culture that my parents valued and that I grew up in. That's my home base. That's my area of operation. So if you have you have all these crazy women that are acting all these crazy ways, I don't know what to say to them. What do I say to them? Oh, of course I know what to say to them. I grew up in Washington. This is the kinds of folks I grew up with. And what you usually say to those kinds of women, and so many of them would detest this way of thinking about women, is you just talk to them like they're regular people. There's no mystery. Yeah, you get to know them a little bit, and they lose whatever roughness they have around you. Because if you come at them like they're the liberal crazy idiots that they look like, well, that's what they would expect from people that are very quick to judge, right? So you don't talk to them like that unless you're in a really bad mood, right? But this is, I don't know. I don't know. It's a Utah versus Washington thing, and you can go to every single state in the union. You can go to every single country, and there's always variations about what men and women might be like. But nobody can change you as a person. You're just influenced by culture and things. It's often said, for instance, that in Sweden, as far as I know, men are somehow emasculated because the culture is, that kind of train of thought. No. Swedish men are extremely masculine. Extremely. They just want to make sure that they're not being intolerant and all this stuff. I mean, Swedish guys are often a foot taller than me. Huge muscles. Deep voices. All that stuff. Right. I don't believe they're effeminate for 1 second. It's just, again, it's the whole, I don't know, Christianity versus Islam and that whole thing and that whole train of thought. Yeah. I bring this up again because all this reflects back on who I've known in my life. Every single person I've known, was just what I've learned about different people and different situations. And every situation is different, I know, but there are a lot of things that remain the same. And one of the biggest things I've learned is that when you try to respond to somebody, no matter what's going on with that person, with kindness and understanding and patience, it generally goes better. It generally does. Not always. Some people are going to be jerks no matter how you act. And again, I'm getting back to the bullies or the nasty people talking nasty stuff. And again, with the bullies, you just are really straight with them. Or you kid around with them. Or some other approach. Whatever it is, you treat them like human beings and you understand that they've got issues, and you just make sure that, and every bully's different. But somebody's talking about nasty stuff that is next level, sometimes harder to deal with. What you have to do in that case is understand the intent with what they're saying, but you don't have to find it humorous or appealing. But if you're gonna, I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna use the phrase Bible bash. I'm just gonna say, because that's a theological whatever debate. If you don't have to beat him over the head with the Ten Commandments, but all you have to say is, well, I don't agree with that, but cool, whatever. But you can say to him, I'm not into that, but more power to you or whatever, And that's often probably the best way of going about it. Because if you do call someone to repent, you have to know what's going to happen, and you have to be prepared for it. It needs to. There's a time to do that, I suppose. We don't always know when that is, but this is the LDS person in me, right? This is the conservative person in me. This is the traditional way of thinking. If you have some very churchy ladies, that you're nearby, and some guys are talking in a very vulgar manner, It's extremely uncomfortable. At some point, though, you do have to say something. Say, okay, that's about enough of that, something like that. It's not easy. But, I mean, like, look, I don't know. Most of the time, when you're talking about people in their teens or even 20s, or older even, a lot of people have no idea what they're really talking about. And they have no idea. Some people have no idea how what they're saying is going to affect someone else. They just have no clue. And if they do have a bit of a clue, and they still mean something negative by it, well, then that's definitely something else. Because so many people are just utterly ridiculous about, they just have no concept about what they're saying is going to affect someone else. I mean, literally, some people have no clue, and sometimes that's not always a bad thing. It just every situation is different. You have to think about it, and sometimes that means taking that person aside and talking to them about it in a respectful but very clear manner. And if you just don't feel comfortable doing that, you can tell someone else. It's not like it's not like you have to always talk about certain things to certain people on your own. But again, that's kind of a guy thing. We tend to do that, and we feel uh, less of a guy, less of a macho man if we rely on someone else to say something to someone. So, yep, I know that very well as well. It's like seen as weakness, right? You don't have the guts to talk about this to this person, that kind of thing. Well, it's not always a question of guts. It's a question of propriety or what a person is comfortable talking about. Some people have no frame of reference even regarding being more polite in a conversation. If all that someone knows is how to be vulgar, that's all they know how to do. So why call them on it? You know, you just be a nice person, and then maybe they'll stop being vulgar. I don't know. Anyway, you guys leave me your thoughts and comments below. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.